The Bahrain Grand Prix is over, and Oscar Piastri won the race. Meanwhile, teammate Lando Norris had a bit of a bottle weekend, and Red Bull and Max Verstappen were really struggling. But now F1 is moving from Bahrain to Jeddah for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, which means that once again it is time for my preview and predictions. This is a series where I'll be previewing and then at the end of the video, giving out my early predictions for the Grand Prix. If you enjoyed the video, then please hit the like button and subscribe for more F1 content. Now though, let's get into the video. As usual, I'll be talking about the top teams later on, so please do stick around for that. Yep, F1 in Bahrain is over, and it was McLaren back on top with Oscar Piastri, as Max Verstappen and Red Bull had a bit of a nightmare weekend, as they struggled with the tyres and getting them to work. But now F1 is moving to a completely different circuit and challenge, as the high-speed, tight and twisty Jeddah circuit is next. This circuit, unlike Bahrain, as I just said, is very high speed, and the walls are very close, meaning that one slight error will end up with a trip into the walls, and we have seen some big incidents over the years, and I'm sure we will see some more this year. Because of the high-speed nature of the circuit, I expect that the teams will be running with quite a bit less downforce than what they just did in Bahrain, which once again might alter the running order. The lower downforce along with the tight walls will be a completely different challenge, and it is one that I expect will catch out some of the rookies, especially in practice. With this in mind, I don't think we will see any Friday rookies in FP1, like we did in Bahrain. The surface of the Jeddah circuit is a lot smoother than what we saw in Bahrain as well, meaning that in general, tyre wear is a lot lower. Overall, this is a circuit for the brave, and not one for any bottles, meaning that qualifying is going to be very interesting and also very exciting to watch. As I just mentioned, the tyre wear around Jeddah is significantly lower than what we saw in Bahrain, and because of that, Pirelli has decided that this year they're going to go a step softer with the tyres than what we saw last year, meaning that the C3 is the hard tyre, the C4 is the medium tyre, and the soft tyre will be the C5 compound. As I mentioned, this is a step softer than last year, and you can see why, as last year there was a total of just 19 pit stops, with the drivers using one set of medium tyres and then using the hard tyres for the majority of the Grand Prix. With the tyres being a step softer this year, I anticipate that we might see some go for a two-stop, but once again, I can pretty much see it being a one-stop race. Overtaking at Jeddah is actually very difficult, despite the high-speed nature, and you can see that as last year there was a total of just 25 on-track overtakes. To help with some overtaking, the Jeddah circuit features 3 DRS zones. The first DRS zone is down the pit straight heading into turn 1. The second DRS zone is on the run from turn 19 to turn 22 before the high-speed chicane, and the third and final DRS zone is on the exit of turn 24 going to the final hairpin. With the way that the circuit is, there ends up being quite a lot of DRS trains, which is probably why there was not too much overtaking last year. With the softer tyres then, I do think it is possible that we can see some more on-track overtakes, especially as the tyres begin to wear during the Grand Prix. Last year, the pole position lap time was set by Max Verstappen in the Red Bull, and he set a time of a 1:27.472. During his pole position lap time, Verstappen managed to reach a top speed of 331 km per hour. In the Grand Prix itself, the race fastest lap was set by Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, and he set a time of a 1:31.632. With Pirelli opting for softer tyres this year, then I think it is very likely that we will see the fastest lap and the pole position lap time being beaten quite easily, especially if it does end up being a multi-stop race in the Grand Prix. I just want to say if you are enjoying the video so far, then I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe for more F1 content. But now, let's get back to the video and let's talk about Ferrari. For Ferrari then, the Bahrain Grand Prix was a bit of an improvement for them, all things being thought about. We saw a great race from Charles Leclerc, which really came undone by a switch onto the hard tyres for the final stint. If he went to the softs, then he might have ended up beating Lando Norris and being on the podium. Teammate Lewis Hamilton also had a very solid race and recovered nicely after a very tricky qualifying. But going into Saudi Arabia, Lewis Hamilton cannot afford another difficult qualifying session. Overtaking at this circuit has historically been pretty tricky, at least compared to Bahrain, so if Lewis does find himself in 8th or 9th place on the grid, then he will not have an easy time. However, the upgrades do seem to be working for Ferrari, and it does seem to be giving them some life, and potentially some confidence that they could be the third fastest team this weekend against Mercedes. For Red Bull then, Bahrain was a very difficult race, as Max Verstappen at one point was stone dead last. Admittedly, this was because he stopped early on the second stop, but it goes to show really how difficult the race was for them. In 2023 or 2024, if Verstappen made a second stop, there's no way he would be in P20. Verstappen could not get any performance out of the hard tyres, and this race really showed where Red Bull are weak. The slow speed corners, where the rear tyres take a beating, especially on the exits, is where Red Bull really struggle. They did so last year, and really they do seem to be again this year as well. Suzuka was a front limited circuit, meaning that the front tyres take a beating instead of the rears. Bahrain, however, was a rear limited circuit, but thankfully for Verstappen and Red Bull, Saudi Arabia is more of a front limited circuit. With that in mind, I expect that Red Bull can be more in the mix, and we can see Verstappen trying to contest for the podium. That is of course if Red Bull can get the setup right. This is the kind of circuit also where Verstappen brilliance can and potentially will make the difference. For teammate Yuki Tsunoda and Red Bull in a way, they can breathe a sigh of relief as he finally scored some points as the second driver for Red Bull, which for Yuki Tsunoda pretty much cements that he will be there now for the remainder of the season. For Mercedes then, it was another podium result for George Russell in 2025, as he is very nicely racking up the podiums, and he now finds himself just 6 points behind Max Verstappen in the Drivers' Championship. Russell did a brilliant job to hold off Lando Norris in the much faster McLaren car, despite the fact that Russell was struggling with some electrical gremlins. But it was not all positive for Mercedes, as teammate Kimi Antonelli was given a frankly pretty poor strategy, as he was shafted and had to do one extra stop, which cost him any chance to score any points. But before that did happen, we did see some incredible racecraft by Antonelli, and I would say that it is racecraft that is beyond his years. And well, for Antonelli, this is a sign of things to come from him as he gains even more experience. We're expecting to see even more great racecraft and speed from him. Going into Saudi Arabia, I expect that Mercedes will again be in a fight with Ferrari, and honestly, between Charles Leclerc and George Russell, it will be very close to call. I expect that Antonelli will be a little bit behind George Russell again this weekend, but he is getting better with each passing weekend. And finally, for McLaren then, it was victory for Oscar Piastri. And for me, he has finally grown into the driver that I really wanted him to be from the F2 days, even if I have been quite negative about him in some previous videos. He has been vastly improved this season, and he has really gotten to grips with the McLaren car, and he is driving in a very controlled manner. He is not making anywhere near the same amount of mistakes as teammate Lando Norris. And going into Saudi Arabia, I can see Oscar Piastri beating Lando Norris again and taking the lead of the Drivers' World Championship. Piastri has been the lead McLaren driver at Saudi Arabia in 2023 and 2024, and with his current form, I anticipate that he will be the lead driver at Saudi Arabia again this season. Teammate Lando Norris did come through the field in Bahrain, but it was a very scruffy race from him, and one that really was not good enough from where he should really be, especially with how good that McLaren was in Bahrain. He made a meal out of a few of the overtakes, especially on Charles Leclerc, and well, he started too far down the order after more mistakes in qualifying. In Saudi Arabia, Norris cannot afford to make any mistakes in qualifying, otherwise he might very well find himself in the wall and starting the Grand Prix way down the order. So with that in mind then, what are my very early predictions for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix? Well, for qualifying and pole position, I'm actually going to go for Max Verstappen in the Red Bull to take pole position. Even though McLaren is the faster car, I do think this is the kind of circuit where we could see some Verstappen magic, much like we did in Japan. But for the Grand Prix itself, what are my top 5 predictions for the Grand Prix? Well, in P5, I'm going to go for Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. P4 will be George Russell in the Mercedes. P3 will be Lando Norris in the McLaren. P2 will be Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. And, well, yeah, I am going to go for Oscar Piastri to win the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. I think McLaren in race trim should still have the edge over Red Bull, and I think it's really going to help Piastri to get ahead of Verstappen, even if Verstappen does start on pole position. But those are my thoughts. The question is, what do you guys think will happen? In the comment section down below, please do let me know. And as always, comment, leave a like and subscribe for more F1 content. Thank you all so much for watching.